Control your DJ lights the right way. If you're a mobile DJ, then there's a really good chance that you own some sort of lighting. A lot of DJs are upgrading their setups with moving heads, uplights, and tubes, but are they using them to their full potential? I have no idea, but what I do know is I'm going to teach you the basics so that you don't have a basic light show. Today I'm going to explain to you what DMX is. No, not that DMX. And go over the basics of using it. Let's get into it.
You're gonna learn today.
DMX, also known as digital multiplex, is a unidirectional lighting control protocol. It defines how a controller sends serial data to fixtures. That data controls the functions of your lighting. DMX 512 is the standard, and what that means is you get 512 channels for each universe. You can have multiple universes for really big light shows, but today we're going to talk about one universe. We're going to keep this super simple and basic. So let's start with the number 512. You have 512 available channels to program all of your lights. I know that sounds like a lot, but in reality, it's not. Bars. You see, every function of your light uses a channel, and depending on your fixture, you could be using a ton of channels. However, for the most part, certain fixtures do allow you to choose how many channels they need to run. For example, the Chauvet Intimidator 375 has two control modes. It can be ran in 9-channel mode or 15-channel mode. If you set it to 15-channel mode, it's going to occupy 15 channel slots. If you have two moving heads, now you're looking at 30 channels in total.
What?
Add uplights or tube lights to that mix and you'll start to see why 512 channels really isn't a lot. Each channel on the light controls a function, and the more channels you have, the more shit you can do with your lights. For example, one channel will handle the tilt on a moving head, while there's another channel that handles the pan.
Are you saying pan or Pam?
And then on some moving heads, there's fine controls for both. All of the channel functions are strictly on a per light basis, so you're gonna have to do your due diligence and read the owner's manual of your light to know exactly what each channel does. Next is addressing. DMX needs to know what light it's talking to, which means you have to set a DMX address. You can pick an address between 1 and 512, but you have to keep in mind that you need to maintain the available channels for your lighting requirements. Basically, if you have a light with 10 channels of control, you're not going to be able to set the address any higher than 502. If you do 503, you're only going to occupy 9 channels because there's only 512 available. I find that addressing starting at 001 is the easiest thing to do. Remember that each function of your light is a channel, so your lights are going to occupy that many channels per address. Example, you have two moving head lights with 15 channels of control. If you set the first moving head's address to 1, then it's going to occupy channels 1 through 15. If you set moving head light number 2 at 16, it's going to occupy channels 16 through 30, collectively occupying channels 1 through 30. To save channel space, some people do duplicate the addresses on their lights. As an example, if you had two moving heads, you would set them both to address number 1. However, when you do that, you lose independent control of each light. They're only going to mirror each other. So for things like moving heads, I wouldn't necessarily duplicate an address, but if you're doing something like uplights, then you might want to consider duplicating the address, because if you have 30 uplights with 10 channels of control, you're occupying 300 DMX channels.
Wow.
Ultimately, it's up to you to figure out how many channels you need to run your light show per light in order for you to figure out how to address those lights. So, how do we connect these lights? There are two ways to handle how the DMX signal gets to your lights. You can either go wired or wireless, or if you're feeling brave, you can do a hybrid system of both. If you do choose to go the wired route though, you need to make sure you keep these things in mind. You want to stay away from using an XLR cable. You want to make sure you're using a DMX cable. Both of these cables look identical, so it's really easy to get them confused. The main difference between the two cables is that DMX cables are designed to specifically have 120 ohms of resistance. Now, I don't know the science behind it or why it matters, but apparently if you have flickering on your lights or your lights are giving you issues and you're using an XLR cable, it's recommended that you swap that cable for a proper DMX cable. Next, when you're plugging your lights in, you want to make sure that you daisy chain them. And what that means is you go to the DMX in of light number 1 and you plug your cable in. Then you take your second cable and plug it into the DMX out and run it to light number 2's DMX in. And you keep doing that for as many lights as you have that you want to run with DMX. I also believe there's a limit. I could be wrong. I think it's 32 fixtures is the max that you can possibly go when it comes to wired DMX, but I haven't Googled it, so there's a chance I'm wrong. You can also choose to avoid all of those headaches by using wireless DMX. You're not clear of the headaches though, they're just different. Most common wireless DMX systems use the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum just like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, which means you're essentially controlling your lights using a signal that's really susceptible to interference. Don't let that scare you though. I've been running wireless DMX for a really long time and rarely have any issues. And for the trolls out there, yes, I know there are some systems that use UHF frequencies. However, most commercial systems live in that 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. Some lights have wireless DMX built in and some lights require wireless DMX receivers. No matter what though, you're gonna need a wireless DMX transmitter, and I'll link the one that I use in the comments. With wireless DMX, you pair the transmitter and receivers by choosing an RF group. Most 2.4 gigahertz systems show these groups as colors. Basically, you want to set all of your receivers to the same color as your transmitter. Side note, the color isn't a DMX channel, it's just a radio group. Most kits offer about 7 different groups, and the colors and number of groups vary by brand. If you find yourself getting dropouts using wireless DMX, then the one thing you want to do first is change your RF group. Like any other wireless system, maintaining line of sight is going to dramatically increase your chances of no dropouts. However, when you're using lights like uplights that are sitting on the floor and spread throughout the room, you're not going to be able to have good line of sight. So the best piece of advice I can give you is make sure your DMX transmitter is far away from any Wi-Fi routers. And like I said, if you find yourself having dropouts, then make sure that you change your RF group.
Cool.
So we have selected our channel modes on our lights. We've then set the DMX address and we have opted to go with wireless DMX. We've also set the same color on the transmitter and the receivers. Now what? Well, you're going to need something to control your lights, and to do that, you're going to use a lighting controller. You can go the hardware or the software route when you're looking at DMX controllers. A hardware controller will generally give you a simpler setup. You also get physical controls, and in some cases, you can even store light scenes. However, unless you drop a pretty good amount of cheddar, you might find some hiccups with channel availability. Most entry-level hardware controllers only have one universe and could have limited channels available to use. The other option you have is to go the software route. Software controllers are far more customizable, have multiple universes, they make programming a lot faster, and can even be paired with MIDI controllers so you have physical buttons, knobs, or faders to use your lighting control software. You can also get really creative with things like pixel mapping. Software like SoundSwitch actually lets you integrate your lighting controller into your DJ software so that your light show is consistent with the music you're playing. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows with software controllers. For one, it's a computer program. And if you've ever used a computer program, you know that they don't always work well, or something as stupid as an OS update can break them. Then you have to account for the added hardware that you need to purchase. You're going to have to buy a USB to DMX interface in order for the software to communicate with your wireless DMX and lighting hardware, which is just another potential point of failure and also an additional cost. For the most part, software controllers come with a really steep learning curve, but once you know how to use the program that you choose, you can create some really awesome light shows. And that is the DMX Starter Kit in plain English. Pick a mode, give each feature a starting address, decide on wired or wireless DMX, match your RF groups, then drive it home with a software or hardware lighting controller. Start small with one universe and a few really clean scenes. And always make sure you test all of this stuff at home before you take it out to an event. But viewers, I leave it to you. Do you use DMX to control your lights, or are you one of those people that just sets it and forgets it? Leave it in the comments. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. If you found anything valuable in the content, please subscribe to the channel. We have a bunch of videos going over the tech that we use as DJs, with a lot more coming down the pipeline. My name is Seth, aka DJ Seth V. This is DJ Tech Tips. Thank you for watching, and we out.